The views expressed on this episode of the Came to Believe Recovery podcast do not necessarily reflect those of KHLT, Take 12 Recovery Radio, or our affiliates. The opinions on this episode should not be taken as medical, psychological, or professional advice and are those of the host, co-host, and guests. KHLT and Take 12 Recovery Radio are not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship. Well, greetings, my friends. I am the Monty'man from Take 12 Recovery Radio, and this is the Came to Believe Recovery Podcast. And now, here are your podcasting broadcasters, Tom Williams and Alicia Martinez, to introduce this week's show.
Welcome to the Came to Believe Recovery Podcast. I am Alicia, and I am here with Tom Williams and the Monty'man. Hello, gentlemen.
Greetings.
And, yes,
Hello, madame.
I was gone last week,
Yes.
and Roger stepped in, and I listened to it on the airplane coming back from Las Vegas, and I'm back.
Hey, we're glad you're back, Roger. If you watch the YouTube version, I put a cartoon wig on Roger.
Oh boy!
Because he was taking your spot, and I said, "You don't look like Alicia." And I said, "Oh, maybe." So you know, for the listeners' sake, if you get to see certain little goofy things on the YouTube version that you don't get to see if you're just listening. There's some graphic stuff that I throw in there, and so you know, there you go. You never know.
A little tickler to make you guys go to YouTube. What do they look like? Who's this Alicia chick?
Right. Some are sicker than others. We know. Yeah. He just, whenever he doesn't agree with us, we're picking at him. He just does some sound.
A scream or a fart machine or something.
A little fluff maker.
I know. You know, I was listening to the intro, you know, and it says that we're not affiliated. Take 12 Radio and all is not affiliated with any 12-step program. And I was thinking about that. So then I thought, you know, we're not either, came to believe. So we're not affiliated with the organization of Alcoholics Anonymous, the organization. But neither were the founders. Right? The beginning of the program wasn't affiliated either. That all came later.
Yeah.
And I thought about that because people will say, so you're not AA. And I say, well, we present the program of AA probably closer than you'll hear anywhere else. So I don't know. Maybe, I mean, it's how are you defining we're presenting the program of AA? So I think the answer is yes. I mean, we are presenting it, but we're not part of a organization. Don't want to go down this big, complicated rabbit hole, but it just touched me that, you know, it doesn't, I don't want anyone to think we're something different. And that, you know, the 12-step fellowship programs are the things we need to be involved in. And that what's came to believe. And often, right, Alicia, people will say, till they came to believe and heard the Came to Believe program. And I'm off quick to say, well, it's not the Came to Believe program. It's Came to Believe presenting the Founders program. So we got to get around that one of these days, Alicia, somehow, so that we make sure we're not being confused with something that we've changed.
Yeah.
So the reason Take 12 Radio has that disclaimer in there is, how do I explain this? It is, we don't speak for the organization Alcoholics Anonymous. Take 12 Radio doesn't speak for them. It doesn't claim to speak for them or to represent them, right? And so although different co-hosts and guests and even the CEO or whatever may personally be a member of a specific 12-step fellowship, right? Take 12 Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting are not affiliated. And so we don't speak for them. I don't even pretend to be any kind of expert on the
Right.
fellowship or the organization of Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, or any of those. Um, but that doesn't mean we're not necessarily personally members of them. It doesn't mean that we don't do our best to present the written word, so to speak, of them. There's take Celebrate Recovery, for instance, right? Celebrate Recovery uses the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous by permission of World Service Office. And though they may teach the 12 steps differently than, I don't want to get myself in trouble here, a little differently than we might do that. They still are teaching the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, but they're not affiliated with Alcoholics Anonymous. But a good portion of their members are members of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Right.
So can it be kind of a sticky thing? Not really. Not if there's a disclaimer, because I've had people talk to me about, the 11th tradition. Are you breaking anonymity and at the level of press, radio, film, and internet and all that? No, I never. You will never ever hear me say what fellowship I'm a member of. You'll hear me say, "Well, I was at a meeting. I was at an AA meeting or an NA meeting." But that way they can't back us in a corner. But you know what? I think there's less and less of that, tradition Nazi stuff going on anymore, to tell you the truth.
Well, we get
I
it
don't
with
know.
raising money, and we get it with charging for retreats, and we get it for not so much for being on the social media stuff, right? At least I don't get it, but someone will come up, you guys are just raising money, making a fortune, and
Like, yeah, really? Not really. They're paying
so if
for
you-
their food and their board.
Right. If you read, I read, because when Elise was asking me about, how to be an AA group and how to get, if a group that someone had wants to be in the book and considered an AA meeting, what do you have to do? And honestly, you don't have to do that much. You actually don't. But in reading it, I was thinking about, they say they can't, they live on, what does it say? Self-supporting through our own donations. But right in the rule book, it says, except under special circumstances, AA can accept gifts from organizations and blah, 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 blah. So in other words, they can raise money and they can take grants and they can take gifts and they can take money just like we do. And I think it's a mistake.
betcha.
It's a mistake that anybody gets hung up on that. We're accountable to the IRS. We're a 501c3 nonprofit, but without a little money, without a little thing, we can't do what we do. We can't, and neither can AA. I would assume they need to have this support to be able to do what they do, and what they do is just spread the word.
It's how you approach the almighty dollar. It's how you approach it. It's just an inanimate object. It's a tool that is used. If it wasn't that, it'd be beads and blankets, right? I mean, it's all in the approach. It's all in the approach. I think the self-supporting thing, I think that's wise. I think that's smart. I try to do that even in my personal life. But yeah.
Monty, why did Celebrate Recovery need permission to use the steps, but then none of the other meetings had to get permission? Or did they?
Because the steps are protected by federal copyright.
But
And
only they had to, but the other meetings didn't need to get permission? Like
What
OA
other
and
meetings?
NA and SA and SCA?
Well, they did. They got permission. If you look at now, keep in mind though, there are plenty of people that aren't going to, and they're going to use them anyway. And AA World Service Office isn't going to call them out. They're just not going to do that.
Right. Okay.
They would hope that integrity would fall on their lap, and they would. Because that's all they have to do is notify World Service and say, "Can we use the steps?" And they, yeah, if you look on the literature on most of your mainstream 12-step fellowships that use the AA 12 steps, you will see reprinted by permission of AA World Services. You'll see that somewhere.
I didn't know that.
Kind of like when a church uses music. Let's say a church uses a song from Hillsong United or something.
Yeah,
You'll see a little thing at the bottom of the screen that'll say,
Yeah, I have seen that.
whatever. At least they should do that. Say who they're.
I mean,
Using
the
it.
third edition is copyrighted, but it's in the public domain. the big book, I think, right? Which means it's not.
It is as far as it technically it's copyrighted. It's public domain in the spirit of it.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's public domain technically. Like I said, AA is not going to come after anybody that's
Yeah, no, but
using
you can't make
self-steps
money
or
selling them. That would be something you couldn't do. It's not that. Or, yeah.
right now. If they find out that somebody is sponsoring somebody and taking them through the steps and charging them for it,
Oh,
there's
right.
going to be a problem.
Right.
But Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Alcoholics Victorious, Celebrate Recovery, all of them, when they have retreats, they charge. AA charges. I'm going to the South Coast Roundup here in July, down in Brookings, Oregon. There's a registration fee.
Well, you have to pay for your room and board anyways, right? I mean, that's paying.
Yeah, some of those conferences, they leave it up to you to get your own, hotel or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Some of them it's included. It just depends on who's putting it on. But this particular one, it's only a $25 registration fee because they're not providing anything other than the speakers and the building. So somebody's got to pay for the building, right?
Right. There's a
And so
rental fee.
if we're self-supporting, then that would be anybody that claims to be a member that's registering.
Right.
They should
It's
be ponying
self-supporting.
up to $25.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gotten, and one of the things we will often say about the traditions is, well, there were no traditions in the beginning till 1955. So when Clarence and Dr. Bob and all these guys were doing it through the 30s and 40s, they were working just fine without the traditions. Now, some would say, well, that's why we needed them, because it got off the rails and we ended up needing traditions to make it better. I don't know about that. It's a topic of another story. But sometimes they'll get away with.
Yeah, you and I would probably disagree a little bit on that.
We disagree on it.
I think it was a smart move. I think how they've been interpreted and how they've been taught has not been so smart. The traditions are written in jello. They must always be flexible. They should never be broken, but they need to always be flexible. And I've said this before, and my mentor, Chris S., says it all the time. An AA group has more right to break a tradition than AA has the right to punish them for doing so. That's how flexible the traditions should be. Once they become law, right, now we're in trouble, just like the Ten Commandments. Once you remove yourself from grace and you fall under law, you are sabotaging yourself because you can't obey the law. So once the traditions become law, then they don't work.
Well,
anyway, that's like you said, that's another show. But
I guess we could stop with the fact there weren't traditions in the 39s. So your debate is whether there should have been. You're saying maybe they were okay, but I'm still going to stand by there just weren't any back in the first 15 years. So the guys weren't using it.
No, there weren't. There weren't meetings.
Right.
There weren't meetings.
No official
either.
meetings, right? Which we said.
There were no sponsors. There were no sponsors either.
Right. But I would love to do a show on the traditions and talk more about it, because our board chair is a proponent, not of them strictly like you, Monty, but she said there's some wisdom behind them in their spirit, and that there's some things about them that aren't so bad. But when they get, this letter of the law and they get used to control and manipulate
as a weapon,
as a weapon, then they become, these groups that are more worried about the traditions than the steps. Just make me want to blow my head off, right? Well, let's get on our subject today, because it sounds like we're getting triggered.
Are you getting triggered?
Triggered. Well,
I got a new sound effects thing. This is really cool.
Trigger.
It's a.
Ooh.
It's an Eastern Indian thunder.
All right.
How is it making that noise? That is so cool.
It's the little spring in here. It's triggering. It's triggering an echo inside. It's a trigger maker.
Okay, so we're going to be talking triggers.
Yeah, I was slightly triggered, Monty, because he was like saying he didn't agree with me a little bit. So I held back
I
from
saw it in your
saying,
face.
but did you know what I didn't say was, well, I'm just okay with you being wrong, Monty. I didn't say
Uh-huh.
that.
Because Tom's always
No.
right. Tom's
You
right.
have your right to be
No, I
wrong.
gave him a chance to talk about what he was going to say, and I would say that I do agree with that. I just, in the big
Well, and
picture,
we can
don't
agree
know.
to
But,
disagree.
well, that just means the other person's wrong in my book. But, that's.
And they
All
think
right,
you're
so
wrong. So
triggers.
it goes
Let's
both
that
ways.
everyone will think there's something wrong with me, which there probably is. But triggers, guys, it's a big.
Probably.
Yeah, there's a subject. People talk triggers. We hear that in meetings. It's a psychology term. A trigger. It's a term that people use under a lot of different environments and atmospheres and different types of therapies and recovery programs and recovery aspects, and it's put in to and has different definitions, and people view them differently. What's a trigger? What does a trigger do? Do we have to have triggers?
I
How do
have a
we handle triggers?
definition.
Right.
You want
Oh,
me to
good.
read it?
I'm sure you do.
Trigger. Distress, typically as a result of arousing feelings or memories associated with a particular traumatic experience. So it just takes us back or reminds us of something in the past, and it triggers us, right? Don't
To
you?
do what?
Huh?
It triggers us to do what?
Oh, well,
A trigger, when you pull a trigger on a gun, something happens, right? What happens when we get triggered?
we react,
Yeah.
So
and then that's the part that we need to look at.
So listen, I love how you said that because I was thinking the same gun analogy too, Monty, when you said it. If a gun is triggered, it means the trigger was actuated, right? It was triggered, which means it was fired.
Yeah.
So you're right, Alicia. There's a reaction. There was a significant reaction came of it in a particular direction. So that all kind of fits, right? Because some traumatic experience sends you off down a path of some action or some feeling of an action or some attempted an action, but it arouses this thing. So could you put your finger on the trigger and not get triggered? You know what I mean? Like, could you catch it before it's a trigger? It's triggered. We're getting deep here. But
Right. Well, also too, people respond differently because it's sounding like you two are saying that when we get triggered, we like lash out. But for me, I actually go in. So you can be triggered both ways, but they're both harmful and, or could be. So I think that's something we can talk about too. I mean, just the feeling, but I don't have to lash out, but I need to recognize that. And am I going to say something? Do I need to say something? Is this my stuff? Is this their stuff? And, right? Are you an outside person that gets triggered and go out? Or it depends
half
on the
yes
situation?
and half no. Because you're right. A trigger could be an internal reaction or an external, for sure. I'm a little half different types of things. I'll go into a shell too and get triggered and go quiet and not do anything about it, but it's eating me up inside. It changes who I am. It changes how I'm acting, for sure. Or I blurt out something and regret it every time. But either way, I usually regret it and have to do some sort of amends or something about it. So yes, I think it certainly goes both ways. That's a normal, the triggers, and it may mirror exactly the way we acted before we got sober and recovered, under that same stimulus.
Yeah.
I think for years when I would respond to something that, here's another terminology, pushed my button, right? It would definitely be outward more than inward. But I think the older I get, I've gone through this phase where, okay, that's not appropriate, so I'll turn it inward, right? And I won't show my hand here because I don't want to disrupt the circle or whatever. Now I've come to a place where I've spent a lot of time studying this thing that is called, what Bill Wilson called, the next frontier, and that's emotional sobriety. The ability to feel the pain, the disappointment, the trauma, the whatever it is that's going on that disturbs me, without letting it knock me off my emotional center of gravity. So to tell somebody, well, you shouldn't let that trigger you, or you shouldn't get that angry over that, or you shouldn't hurt because they didn't mean it that way. I think that's kind of ludicrous. I think you do feel the pain. You do, but I think we can learn how to respond properly to those things so we don't get knocked off our beam. It doesn't mean those things don't hurt. It doesn't mean those things don't affect us. It just means that we're able to keep our balance, whereas before we weren't. I'm not a big triggers guy anymore because I think a lot of it has to do with our powerlessness. If we're powerless, then of course these things are going to affect us and knock us off our center. But once we know how to tap into this amazing power, right, when the thing comes galloping down the road to push that button in us or whatever, we can depend and rely on this power to do for us what we can't do for ourselves. I can't not pull the trigger left to my own devices. Left to my own devices, I am going to pull the trigger. But I'm not left to my own devices anymore.
Right.
Now I have a choice. Now I have the power and choice. I haven't lost the power and choice now. Then I did, but now I don't.
And awareness and emotional maturity and understanding, going over and over, aware and knowing this, you can catch them. Monty, I think that's what you say, is I don't get triggered. There might be a chance to grow. I might grow through something and experience something, but I don't like them. They're not so much triggers anymore as they are growing experiences or chances for me to grow. I'll sit and go, oh, and I'll process. But just because I'm aware that when it just starts, like you're saying, it's galloping up, well, when that galloped up last time, I engaged it one way or the other this way, and I go around it. I don't know if this makes sense to you. And here, the other thing I was thinking before, now what happens to me is, we used to not react or overreact. We're not meant to be doormats as recovered people. We're meant to be able to stand up for ourselves. We're meant to be able to be respected and honored in certain things. And in many cases, if I lash out, the correct response was not to. And when I don't lash out, the correct response was probably to. And what I mean by lash out, I mean say something. Sometimes when I don't say something, I go into a corner because I don't want to speak up for myself. I've been knocked off my pedestal, like you say. When I am worth it and I'm valuable, I should have said, wait a minute, no, that's not okay. But I go into a shell. When other times I'll blow something off and go, yeah, that I should have said, that wasn't okay to do that. I don't know if you guys experience it, but that's very common for me. When I go quiet, probably the proper thing was to do something, to stand up for myself, to say something, to say that's not okay with me. But then it's the people pleasing thing, and that's the trick. Those are these things, somebody gonna be mad at me then. And am I gonna lose my whatever if this doesn't happen to me that often, but I think that our listeners and people we talk to, these things come up all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Totally does. That's exactly what I was thinking when you were saying is when I go internal, 99% of the time it's situations that I need a boundary and I don't have one, or I don't know what to say and I'm afraid they're going to be mad at me, stuff. And then I have to look at that and do a step 10 and I'm looking over step 10 actually. And I have some quotes in here that I'm adding to my presentation because we have a retreat this weekend.
Oh, yes.
But listen to this. Am I being mature and logical in how I am evaluating this? That is a good question to like think of when I'm triggered. And is this a response I want to practice? What is the response I want to practice? Right? So, and this is ongoing step 10 work for me and everyone else. And I think it's important for people to know that, like, when we first get recovered, we might not be so good at it. And then,
Right.
but you can make an amends. It's okay. You can make an amends. You can, oh, let me redo this. I need to fix this situation. And then the more we do it, like Monty said, then we get better at it. But if we're tired or something, then we might fall right back into those behaviors, and we just need new habits and practice doing the behaviors that we want to do. Practice.
I think when we are, what you were saying, if we're tired, like if we're in that area of restless, irritable, and discontented, we are more vulnerable to not just let other people push our buttons, but to actually have our buttons sticking out way too far. When I'm restless, irritable, and discontent, man, they just go boing, and somebody can just rub up against me. It's like, you know what I mean? And so I've told guys that I work with, so-and-so pushes my buttons. And I said, well, wait a minute. What are you doing with your buttons sticking out so far?
That's a good one.
Kind of on you, right? Because I've had to look at that too and say, the big book tells us we pause when agitated. Okay, what does that mean? What am I doing in the pause? Am I just pausing? Well, I'm agitated.
Right.
What am I doing in the pause? Am I living in the go in the pause? Or have I stopped and credited it to being stuck?
And blaming everybody else for
Blaming
our
everybody
feelings.
Yeah.
They
So-
made me yell. They made me do
Yeah.
it. They did it. No, it's you. It's me.
And step 7 really is the tool that removes the button, or it should push the button way down deep. Step 7, we've decided we don't have the buttons anymore. Although there's that ghost thing about the button, right? The habit what the button used to have. Right? Let's talk about pet peeves, because Alicia and I talked about that the other day on the phone, and it took us off. And we said, we got to talk about that. She said, well, I have pet peeves, and some people believe they call a pet peeve that you get them. Pet peeve is just one of your things that everyone has to honor and all. So I think Alicia found a definition for pet peeves.
Of course I did. Something that a particular person finds especially annoying. Like mouth noises. Oh. When people have mouth noises, like on podcasts, and they're like swallowing and making stuff with their mouth. I can't stand. I turn it off. I can't do it. I can't do it. Or when they swallow really loud around me or on a podcast, it just
How about this one?
it doesn't bother me.
So when I was teaching out at the Adult and Teen Challenge Center, and we'd be in a class.
Oh,
Right.
unless they're doing it while
Right.
somebody's
There was this
teaching.
one guy that it was just like a nervous thing with him, and nobody else cared except for this other guy who was like OCD and multiple personality. He was like the whole package, right? I thought he was going to kill him. He told me, because if you don't stop doing that with your pen, I'm coming across the table. Yeah, I mean, it really got to him,
Well,
right?
it is annoying if you're in a presentation or sitting there and they're doing it over and over and over and over and over.
What about the people that keep responding to you? If you're teaching, yeah, that's right, preach it, yeah, yep, tell the truth, yeah. I'm like,
Oh, you
Stop.
don't like that?
No.
I don't.
if it's
might
affirming,
like that.
yes, but not 50 times in 2 minutes.
Tom, what about yours? I'm surprised you're not jumping in
Yeah.
here.
Well, we had a mocktail hour here in New York City, and this one guy in the front just started talking to our panelists and asking them questions. We weren't taking questions, and it was one of those things. Just responding and got into this conversation with the person, and I'm like, I don't know if that's a pet peeve, but it's a little bit. They weren't taking questions. We can't do it. Yeah, I guess I have some, and I think as you guys are talking about it, like I think there's a difference between a pet peeve that's like somebody's clicking a pen. It's really distracting, or a noise that you're making on the thing. But if the pet peeve is, Alicia and I were talking like, I don't want dishes left in the sink when I go to sleep. So we'd say that's a pet peeve of mine. Don't leave any dirty dishes in the sink. And your roommate, wife, husband, or whatever, leaves a dish in the sink, and then you react. It's really a resentment, right? Because who's to say that the rule is no dishes in the sink, or there are dishes in the sink? What if their rule is, I want to leave a dish in the sink every night? What makes no dishes correct over a dish? I don't know, except that the dish person is wrong. I just know that. Whoever leaves the dish.
I agree. I agree with that one.
Tom, this is what I'm going to refer to Dr. Alan Berger again. This is what Dr. Berger calls unenforceable rules.
Yeah.
What are the unenforceable rules, demands, or claims we put on each other? If you respected me, you would do the dishes that you left behind before you go to bed. Well, that's an unenforceable rule. I can't force you to respect me.
Mm-hmm.
But and if it bothers me that much, I should do the dishes then.
That's what we said when we were talking about it. Exactly.
But it can fit in the category of pet peeves with somebody. I have a pet peeve when somebody leaves a dish in the sink, or they don't pick their clothes up off the floor, or they don't. And
but there's a lot in there also that we can think about and talk about. Like if it's your spouse and it's 10 years later and you're just seething every day, you need to have a conversation with them.
You do.
Or you need to pick it up if it's bothering you. But communication needs to be happening. Even if they don't agree, then you can, communicate about it. Like, okay, if you're going to keep doing that, then I'm going to be picking it up. But where's the line? What are you going to do? What am I going to do? Or because if we're being mad and angry and resentful, then we're not doing step 10 if they're in recovery. And so that's what they need to look at. And why is it so bothersome to you? Do it yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Guys, we got to take a real quick break. And when we come back, listeners, we're going to pick up this discussion on pet peeves. I got a question about, let's see if you guys can think about this for a minute. Do those pet peeves actually trigger you to behave in a way that is harmful? So don't go away, folks. More with Alicia Martinez and Tom Williams on the Came to Believe Recovery Podcast. We'll be right back. Hey there, my friends. Thanks for tuning in to this week's Came to Believe Recovery Podcast, a production of the world's oldest recovery talk and recovery music radio station, Take 12 Recovery Radio. Did you know that we have thousands of archive shows, recovery workshops, and recovery music, all available for you for fun and for free? Here's an idea. Right after this episode, visit our website at take12radio.com and subscribe on any of the podcasting platforms listed there. Why not begin enjoying the best in recovery talk and recovery music, all at take12radio.com on your internet dial.
Hi, this is Daryl Musio with the Came to Believe Recovery team, and you're listening to Recovery Talk and Positive Music of Take 12 Recovery Radio.
Welcome back.
All right, so Monty posed the question. So two things, I think. I'll certainly react And how about those reactions when we've never told the person it's a pet peeve? Do you ever have those things that drive you crazy and you then become resentful and you never told them it was a pet peeve? They're supposed to have radar and just pick up the fact that you don't like such a thing. I mean, that's many times the case. Someone will say, I didn't know that you didn't like such a thing. Always will do something about it. And there'll be some passive aggressive thing.
It depends on the thing. It depends on the thing too, though. Like if it's the dishes, then I would say you should have a conversation about it. But if it's something like swallowing loud that they probably can't fix or won't fix, do we say that to them? I don't know. I would be embarrassed to even say that out loud that I have it.
That's a good thing. What about that unfixable thing? And that really isn't.
Then we have to switch our perception and not expect them to not swallow loud or whatever. I think. Don't you think, Monty? We can't expect them to change everything for us.
I think the reason that I don't bring something up after a long time of it irritating me is because deep down inside I know it's my problem, not theirs.
Yeah.
And so I keep telling myself, this is my issue. I'm not even going to bring it up. And then something happens and it's usually not even associated with that. And I respond to it, would you stop that? When you do that, it drives me crazy. Okay, what's really going on?
Right.
Yeah.
Something else is going on. Am I really that angry that you didn't put the ketchup back in the refrigerator immediately after using it? I don't think that's the real issue. If it is, I need therapy, right? But probably there's something else going on there. We looked in the big book about what this whole thing, how do we get to this place where we actually can live in the go, live in 10, 11, and 12? The whole big book is about looking at myself. What's going on with me? Not you.
Exactly.
All right. Well, wait.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw one at you because I have a pet peeve. I'll call it a pet peeve. All right.
Oh.
And you tell me, okay? Dish towels. Okay? There are dish towels and hand towels. They're not to be
I don't agree.
crossed.
I don't agree.
Okay. Look,
No.
Monty's it.
Mine are the same.
I have them arranged. Left side is a dish towel. Right side is a hand towel. You dry dishes with the left side. You dry your hands with the right side. Because the dishes are clean. And you wipe your hands off.
Your hands are clean.
No, not like a
After
clean
you
dish.
wash your hands are
No.
clean. Your
Or-
hands are touching the dishes when you dry them.
Or the towel that goes, or on your drying rack next to your things like jars of food and things are put on the drying towel. Like it's now contaminated. So, see, I got myself whipped up that there's a right and a wrong to this. And when I see the dish towel get grabbed and like wiped or counter wiped off or something and then put back, that towel's now dirty. You can't dry clean towels with dishes with that right now.
Oh boy.
So this would
is
be
gonna be fun.
But
This is
there's
gonna
a
be
bunch
fun
of
with you
people
at
that don't see anything like that. They don't see it. But I am like,
I don't see it.
no.
That's funny.
My wife's the same way. My wife's the same way. I mean, there are specific purposes for specific towels, and
I
we have
like her.
our hand towels and our, what we call a hand towel and a wash rag. At least that's what my parents called it, a wash rag. So the wash rag is smaller,
Yeah.
usually square, it's smaller,
Yeah.
and the hand towel is a little oblong, right? But ours are really close to looking the same, and they're the same color, except for the pattern on them's a little different. One's kind of got a bumpy pattern in the other way. I just grab one, and she goes, "What'd you use that for?" I go, to dry my hands off. No, that's a wash rag. That's not a drying towel. And then what drives her crazy is when I take a towel, any towel, that is our good towels, because we have our good towels, and then we have the towels I get to have out in the studio. Those are the hand-me-down towels. Those are the towels we don't use anymore. So if I take one of the good towels and I clean something like the filter from my fish tank, well, I wouldn't say it upsets her, but she does get annoyed at that. I'm like, but you can wash it. We have a washing machine to wash the towel. Who cares what towel it is? Just wash it.
Yep, that's what I think.
So but let me tell you though, I understand if I want to have peace and not be right, but have peace, right? Then I'll use the hand towel or to dry, and I'll use the wash rag to wash.
Yep.
And I'll be a good boy.
Well, I need
Do you want to be right, or do you want to get it right?
or be happy. I have someone you need to talk to about just cave under and do it. You have to, I have someone you need to talk to, Monty, about that off camera. So that
Do you think Monty
So I'm not
caves and
off
just
crazy.
does it?
He said he's going to do he's going to go with the rule. He's going to use the wash towel for wash
Well,
if
that's what a lot of
if he loved
spouses
her, look
do.
where I'm going with this. If he loved her, he would just do it.
Well, sometimes I think that's true, especially for married couples.
And I'm convinced there's some people that this thing with the towels, and it seems silly, but there's other things like that. It's they're not wired that way. It just, no matter what you say, any towel gets grabbed to do anything, even after you've just had the full explanation about it. Again, the same towel gets used.
He's getting triggered with his pet peeve.
Is the towel issue do you want to drink over this?
Oh, that's a good topic because no.
Well,
Right?
that is true.
You know what?
Right.
But there are some people, depending on where they are in their process,
They would.
just talking about it. They're right now. They're listening to this, going, "Man, I'm getting thirsty."
Mm-hmm.
Seriously.
Or they want a crumble cookie.
They want a crumble cookie. God, stay away from that place.
Well, that's the very thing I said to Elisa. I said, when we talk about triggers in our context, from a recovered standpoint, it's never that the trigger is pushing us to the thought of a drink. The trigger is pushing at one of our defects, one of our habits, one of our things that we're growing through. And for all of you listening, that's where we are. Use of the towels, it's not going to drive me to drink.
Right.
Homicide, some things like that, maybe, but not to drink. I'm kidding.
Homicide.
I'm kidding. But no, I
gotta say this. So the little Girl Scout hut where there was a little AA meeting up in Sweet Home, Oregon, and there was a right above the door when you left, there was a broken shoelace pinned to the top of the door. And I asked my sponsor, I said, "What is that about?" And he goes, "Because many of us will drink over that."
Oh, a broken shoelace.
A broken shoelace. He said, "Think about it.
Well, if you're not recovered, you may very well drink over that.
You may.
Or less.
Yeah.
So, and I think the good point too is that somebody getting recovered to think that they're not going to get triggers, they're not going to have pet peeves that they got to work through, is also something that is unrealistic. You don't walk this world or this earth completely free. There's people in it. And what are people, Alicia?
People-y.
People-y.
People are people-y.
And
But go ahead.
No, go ahead. You were going.
I was going to say, I have heard people, and one in particular, that go to retreats and think realistically Sunday when they leave, they're going to be perfect and their life is going to be perfect. Like, what are you? No. You have to still do stuff.
What the heck are they paying for then?
Yeah, right.
Right? But come on, that is so unrealistic. That is so immature. That is not okay. But and I think that's one thing I stress and when I teach step 10 especially, you're not done. ever.
So Alicia, I when talking about expectations early in my recovery, my sponsor, I said, well, there's some expectations that are reasonable, right? He goes, nope. I go, none? He goes, not for you. None. I said, okay, so if you say that you're going to meet me at 2:00 at Denny's for coffee, I can expect you to be there at 2:00, right? He goes, nope. I went, what are you talking about? He goes, not at this phase of your recovery. No, you put any expectations on anybody the way you are right now, you're so triggered by everything. You just can't do that. So what if I don't show up? What are you going to do? And he was right. At that time in my life, I couldn't, and so, well, I can expect you to call me and tell me you're going to be late, right? Nope. What do you think about that? Do we need to be that strict about expectations?
Well, because
In the beginning, maybe.
he was trying to build your own responsibility, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Which I think is very important for everyone.
yeah.
Yeah, but I
Tom
don't know.
doesn't
I
agree.
think we need to learn to not be a doormat. And if someone says they're going to be there at 2 and they don't show up, for you to not be able to say, "Hey, that wasn't okay. That you didn't show up. You didn't honor your word." And I just want you to know that
I think that's fine.
caused me.
I think that's fine.
Right. He could say that, but
Yeah.
that's different than having the expectation. I think those are
but why-
kind of different.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I think I get where the guy was coming from with you to have you not put too much emotional and have it be so upsetting.
Yeah.
But to say, I mean, if you don't expect him to come at 2, then why would you go? You go, right? I mean, that's in a very very pragmatic sense.
I think the trick is, again, you just don't let it knock you off your center. You just don't anymore. Okay. So if I keep coming back at 2:00 and he keeps not showing up, it's kind of on me now, right?
Right. Well, it's on you to be, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
let me talk to you guys about a healthy way of managing these little, what we would call pet peeves or things that we have that I'll do today. And it solves a lot of them. So let's talk about the dish thing, right? The dish thing and cleanliness of the house and even the hand towel thing. I try. It never gets adhered to, but I try to instill the thing. But the dish towels, I will say to a new roommate or, somebody, okay, let's sit down and talk about this. I want to talk about how I feel about it. How do you feel about it when we're doing dishes? I really think I like to go to sleep with no dishes in the sink, and here's why. Because when there's no dishes in the sink, you wake up in the morning and you don't have things to do. It seems clean. It seems orderly. I like the house put in order, and because of how I am in my life, I like to wake up and have things be orderly. So there's a reason behind it. How do you feel about that? And what can we do about and talk about it. And then you hear the other side. Well, I don't care if there's just one thing in the sink. What does that matter? Sometimes I just want to go to bed because it's too late, right? Another reasonable a reasonable explanation for whatever. So, and then there's a compromise in there somewhere. And then maybe it is, I just finished the last 2 dishes. But because it's been talked through and you understand where the other are all coming from, that tends to be a healthier way to manage these things for me today, is to express my thing, talk it out, compromise, and it in most cases avoids the resentment. Mic drop. You got nothing to say. Nail it.
Wow. I think that is, in a perfect world, that's really good.
Like I said, I try to do that.
Yeah.
And then
But then when your roommate keeps doing dishes every single night and you keep cleaning them, you're going to be okay with that?
got a new roommate. Well, no, then it's
Again,
what
I think
Monty
it's
says. I got to look at this then sometimes. I got to look at myself. What is there something more behind this? What is it behind this? Why do
Right.
I have to have them all cleaned every night? Is it
Right.
is it a real order thing, and is it reasonable? Make my bed every day. Is that something can be expected? I think for me it is, and there's an argument for it. But does the world end if the bed's not made? Certainly not. Does the world end if there's 3 things left in the sink? And by the way, guys, I can go to sleep with a couple things in the sink. I don't prefer to, but I could if I knew there was
He
things.
just has nightmares.
Right. I don't. I can't. And I make the bed. I'm with you 100%.
Well, I do.
It
There's
just
nothing.
brings
I'm
order.
actually-
I don't want to wake up to a dirty kitchen because then you're waking up the coffee's set, the thing is clean, everything is perfect when I get up.
Well, don't
That's
even ask
just
me about
what I-
setting the coffee the night before. I mean,
but
yeah,
that needs
has
to be done.
happen. That has to be done. Coffee set the night before, Monty. It has to be done. Like,
I'm drinking it the night before. What do you?
I mean, it has to be done.
Funny. My
See, we
workout
get these little
clothes are
things.
in my bathroom.
So
Everything
now,
is set.
I mean, we're coming towards the end, but now we're ruling around with what's the difference between a little idiosyncrasy and pet peeve and healthy habits that promote living in the go and responsibility and moving towards success and excellence and things like that. Where is there a line where we can? Monty's smiling because he sees I'm going with this stuff. He's like, dude, I'm on your wife's side, so I didn't get to meet her last time. I'm going to fly out just to meet your wife so I can find out some
Meet
more
her
stuff.
and-
No, you'd love her. She's great, and I will tell you, I gotta say this, and it really doesn't bother me anymore to the degree that it did at all. But there's only one thing that Marcia does that I just go, really, just one thing. She doesn't, when she's putting jelly on her toast or when she's putting ketchup on her fries, she leaves the cap off on the counter and then she goes and sits down and eat. And I go, put the cap back on. I don't know why. Again, like you, why does that bother me? I need to look at that. Why does that bother me so much? I walk in, the cap's sitting there. I go, are you done using it? Oh yeah. Then why didn't you put the cap back on? And I had a guy in the fellowship tell me one time, he goes, if that's the only thing that bothers you about your wife, dude, you are rich.
Yeah,
Right.
that's true.
And
That is true.
I am rich. I am rich because it really is. I cannot tell you anything that she does other than that bothers me at all. There's just nothing. She is the most angelic person. I don't know how in the heck she ever ended up with a guy like me. I really don't.
No,
And
we
it's,
don't either.
what's funny is that in that example, the pet peeve of yours was the top off the ketchup.
Yeah.
My pet peeve is like, she still eats bread and jelly and fries?
Right.
What the hell?
Yeah, especially when I can't. When I can't. You get to when I can't. It's the same thing. Why does that guy get to drink and I don't? Why
Right.
does she get to have French fries and I don't?
Well, I hope she's metabolically healthy because if she's not,
Well,
we shouldn't be eating that stuff.
I will.
You can meet her. I won't let Alicia.
I will leave a shirt like a gym shirt, so I'll take it off and put it on the ground, and it'll go on the floor or something, and I'll walk past it a few times. And I'm orderly, and I will, and that drives some people crazy. How did you walk past that?
It would drive me crazy. I can't stand clothes on the floor.
And so there's a reasonable argument too. I say, you're right. Okay, that's fair enough. I pick it up now. I can do some things like that. So these things, guys, that you're listening to are real
Nobody's
stuff that goes on in everyone. And I mean, I know there's people going to listen to this podcast and know they have a million of these little things. And I hope you got some wisdom from us because they're real. They happen. And in most cases, they are absolutely something that we have to work on. There's some reason why. I mean, that's the only place we can go, right, Monty? In the end, if we can't change everybody to be just like a little robot around us, and we want to get along in society or be in a relationship with the opposite sex, or I guess I'll get in trouble if it's not just be in a relationship with somebody, that we can't see only our side in it. What is it that has us pushed so bad? And in most cases, it's such a chance for us to grow, and it comes from someplace inside us that needs some healing and some brokenness. And we get.
And if anybody is listening, if anybody's listening or watching, and you are triggered or have pet peeves that are driving you to the food or to the alcohol or to the drug, still check out our website and get to a retreat or go to a meeting. We have meetings. And because there's something there that if you're not able to look at it and not react or not go to your addiction, we need to look at that. We need to do something about that.
We are out of time, guys. Thank you for an excellent show. I got to go run to the kitchen and see if the dishes are done.
Right.
Don't use the wrong towel.
Right.
Don't tell
All
her
right.
Tell your wife about the towels. And we do have a retreat this weekend, and we're excited about it. So Alicia and I will be talking about it next week because we're going to be in Nevada City this weekend with 52 newcomers, guys. 52 newcomers.
Wow.
Retreat this weekend in Nevada City. So we're just really, really excited. So we're off.
Excellent. All right. Our closing song this week is by Amanda Broadway from Florida, and it's entitled I Surrender. Here's Amanda.
How can you see through the muddy waters in me? I can't catch the thoughts between the lines. Nothing seems right to define these feelings in me, all like broken glass. I'm treading on another night from dusk to dawn. Then another morning comes and nothing changes. Yeah, I know time takes time, so I accept that just for today. I am broken and I'm afraid of surrender. What a mess I've made. I've trampled love and run away. I've hid from insecurities. Still I can't find relief of this indigestion with the clog in my emotions. I lay down on my pillow and the tears fall, 'cause nothing changes. Yeah, I know time takes time, so I accept that just for today. I am broken and I'm afraid of surrender. The only place I need to live. I learned to love and to forgive in the meantime. And I find peace in the hope that you believe in me, that you see something that I don't. Yeah, something's changing. Yeah, I know time takes time, so I accept that just for 'cause I surrender. No, I don't have to fight anymore. No, 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 no. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Yeah, I surrender, surrender. I give it all up to you. No more this pretending.
You know, as I thought long and hard about this issue of triggers, I realized that there are many views on the topic. Some of them you've heard in this broadcast. Yes, the Big Book does state that we should be able to go anywhere as long as we have business there and that we are in fit spiritual condition. But I suppose I would have to ask myself this question. If I am indeed in fit spiritual condition, why would I want to be in some of those slippery slope arenas? The truth is, God may indeed call some of us to go where angels fear to tread. If that's you, please make sure you're standing firm before you enter, lest you fall. And if you are one of those who is looking over your shoulder for the boogeyman everywhere you go, you may want to consider who you have turned your will and life over to. Is your higher power able to keep you safe and protected, regardless of where your feet may take you? Regardless of where your next calling may lead? It's something to think about. Came to Believe Recovery strives to create and promote opportunities for life-changing spiritual experiences for individuals and families suffering from all forms of addiction. For more information, help, and support, visit cametobelieverecovery.org. I'd like to thank you for allowing me to be your host on this episode of the Came to Believe Recovery podcast. And I would encourage you to like, bookmark, and subscribe to this show. When you do, you will join the Take 12 Recovery Radio family and will be notified of all of our recovery-focused shows throughout the week. Until our next broadcast, when we provide the essential spiritual tools needed to thrive by sharing our experience, our strength, and our hope through our stories of how we came to believe.
This has been a production of Take 12 Recovery Radio.
Yeah, kitty, kitty, kitty. Meow.
Woof, woof.
This has been a Chicken and a Pig production.